I had an experience with something and I wanted to, so here it is.
Are you sure? Yeah, I'm positive. Of course, I love you. I'm not sure if you love me.
Well, this is what happened to me. This was about December. I started to get phone calls from Oklahoma. They would call, just sit there, not say anything, and hang up. Once again, I didn't think anything of it. But then, I'd say it was definitely February. I met this guy on OkCupid, and
You, I need pictures. See you alive. See just been more than 50 the love of my life.
he had, because he was in the Army, he had to go to Fort Sill, Oklahoma. And I was like, okay. I told him he was really cute. He was. And then he called me. Well, his story had been that he was from Spain. He had moved here, and his mother and father had died in a car accident. When I talked to him on the phone, he did sound somewhat Hispanic. And I was like, wait a minute here. You kind of sound Mexican. You said you're from Spain? Don't Spanish people or Spanish people speak a little bit different language? Or dialect of Spanish? I didn't know. And he's like, well, yeah, but I had told you that I had gone down to Mexico and spent some time there. I didn't think anything of it. Okay. He was once again in the military, and he said that, well, shortly after he started texting me a whole lot. He texted me a bunch of pictures of so-called himself, and then he said he was very emotional about me. He loved me, and I was like, wait a minute here. I just started meeting you. And he's like, well, when I talked to you on the phone, I just felt a connection. And I really do feel like I love you. And I was like, okay. And then, I don't know, it was like maybe a week later or something. He had been texting me like every day. And then a week later, he calls me up crying, and he says that he has to, and I know the crying should have been a red flag, but I was like, okay. I was like, what's wrong? He's like, well, I just got, I just got deployed. I'm going to Nigeria, and I'm very scared. And I'm like, well, you said you've been in the military for 15 years, so this shouldn't be too scary. He's like, every time I get deployed, I'm scared. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, I didn't know what to say, so I just said, well, just do it for me because, it's always been my dream, the military, and I was only able to stay in it for a little while, so please do it for me because if I had a choice back in the day, I would have retired. And he's like, well, so I'm living your dream? And I'm like, yeah, you're living my dream. And I want you to go and do it. And then when you come back, you're going to retire, right? So you're going to be a hero. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, well, then, And I had asked him how old he was, and he said 38. I'm around that, so I figured it was perfect. And I guess I believed him because the first pictures that he sent me, the guy in the pictures, he looks older. Just as old as me, maybe. And because he had like lines on his forehead and just his physique and everything, it looked a little older than, well, what I usually date, I guess you could say. I know, boo, but still. And so time went on. He got stationed in Nigeria, supposedly. Well, that's not too odd because in February, everything that was going on with Nigeria and everything, I just kind of believed him. I knew that we had sent troops over there. I didn't know when they stopped. So it wasn't that odd. he said he was going to be back in March. March came around, he wasn't coming back. He said that they wanted to keep him a little bit longer and that he might be there till July or maybe a tad bit longer. I was like, well, that's odd. Usually when you retire in the military or when you're getting out, they can't extend it normally. Well, he said because of his position that they did. So it's like, okay, what could I do? I mean, there's nothing I could do. The only thing I could do is tell him that I doubted him a little bit. So I said, if you're real, then go ahead and mail me a picture of you holding a sign with my name on it. He did, but it didn't really look like him. Later I was corrected. It was that person that, was in all the other pictures. But anyhow, at the time, I just did not believe him. I called him a liar. I said this was ridiculous. It was a ridiculous picture, and all this and that. Then he sent me a video. And I think that through the video, I fell in love with the person that was in the video. And it's like, how can that happen? Well, they say that sometimes it does happen with the whole romance scam things. So anyhow, at the time, I was a little bit deluded. And I guess I just believed him. And he asked me for money. I wired it to him. I wired it to a Osantityuyi Oluwaseun. He said that was his agent. And he had to have an agent because of the rebels. He said that the army folk had to stay in a certain little area. They couldn't really venture out. I mean, it was too dangerous. And I was like, okay. And he's like, for safety's sake, I have a agent who goes and picks my money up for me, comes back, I pay him a certain commission, and that's it. And I'm like, okay. Well, so that was the first time I wired money. I actually wired money to this person 3 times, and he always had a different excuse. He left his credit cards at home. I had been in the military, so I guess you could say that I should have known better, but I had also been to Europe before, and I almost ran out of credit card money, and there was no way to get money beyond that. I mean, it's just too hard, at least in Greece and Italy, so I just kind of believed him, and it was for his kid, and he said his kid's name was the same name that the person in the picture's kid is. So I was like, okay. I wired him money, and then, I mean, he talked to me like every day, like sometimes 3 times a day, and he was just kind of believable, I didn't question him a lot until it got to be like maybe April or something, and I don't know, I started really doubting him because I went on scam sites and I looked through some things, and then also he had several different profiles that I had found. It was all Beal, Ricardo Beal, Rick Beal, XX, Super Carlos 04, and the Carlos came from, he said that he had a few nicknames. And so I was like, wait a minute here, you have profiles in different states. He's like, yeah, I didn't think it was a big deal. I'm like, well, this is strange. And he said his baby mama was in Maryland, that he had been separated from her, and they had 1 child together. So, I don't know. I don't know what's true about the person who is really talking to me. But anyhow, I had gone and done different things. I went and I took the phone numbers that he was calling me from, which it was only like 3. I put them into the system in Google, and they spit out all these women. Well, at least for one phone number, all these women were complaining about him, or what I thought might have just been him. Different profiles, different stories. I mean, all kinds of scams you would not believe. And I still wanted to believe him because I guess I was just so in love with him. and I was doing my schoolwork, working on a bachelor's degree. I didn't really have time to go and doubt him a whole lot. So I just kind of fell into the trap. And I did, well, there was some room for me doubting him. I guess on my spare time, I went to a few scam sites and I was like, just in case, if it winds up being that he's real, then I'll take these down. But just in case, I'm going to post his pictures and I'm going to tell women that this is a potential scammer. So I did that, and I posted his email address and stuff, and some women were responding to me, not really because of the Ricardo Beal or any kind of Beal, but because of the phone number that I had posted that he used. And women with other, that were being contacted by other profiles, etc., etc. We'd compare stories, that sort of thing. A lot of times it was the same story. I'd say about 75% of the time it was always an army guy going overseas. It was always an army guy who had a kid, and his parents died. And it was just kind of a repetitive thing. So I looked up more information, and I found out that one of the phone numbers was doing the Raven Riley fake profile. And Raven Riley, she has a similar story. Both, well, I don't know about the real person, but the fake profiles have a similar story, that the mother and father died, in a horrible car accident, yada, yada, yada. One's from Spain, the other one's Native American or sometimes American or whatever. And yeah, so I guess that's about the time when I started doubting him. And it's like, who the hell are you? And he would not tell me. I was like, look, I know that the real Beal is somewhere else. And so please tell me. I begged him. I tried every trick in the book to try to find out who the real Beal is. At no point in time did he ever want to divulge that information, period, no matter what kind of trick I tried. And so I set out to find the real Beal. And I guess I eventually found him. The scam sites moderators told me don't try. He's probably married. There's a wedding ring there. Well, every time I looked at the picture, it seemed to be on the wrong hand. It wasn't on the left hand to me. I still don't kind of see where it's on the left hand, but I guess it is. And so I don't know. I one day, it was more of a stroke from the divine or what have you, because one day I was looking at his tattoos and I was like, that one blue tattoo, it doesn't look like anything but a C to me. Maybe his name, is a C. And then I put it in Google, what I thought it might be. It didn't spit out that. It spit out something totally different. And I was like, well, I haven't checked that yet. And so I checked that name, and it wound up being him. And it was him. And I put a message on his Facebook, and I was like, please, please call me. And his wife wound up calling me. They're really nice people. And he wound up being 22, married with kids. And that's tragic, kind of, but he seems like a really nice person. And so anyhow, I had confronted my scammer. They say don't ever confront your scammer because they don't know if the scammers really come from, cyber gangs or what. And so I was like, look, buddy, I know you aren't the real Beal. And for weeks, he tried to tell me that he really was, that it was the other Beal that was being the fake, yada, yada, yada. Well, I had been to the real Beal. I was like, look, if you're real, then you're going to do the same thing I asked Ricardo to do. Send me a picture with I am the real Beal on a piece of paper, and I'll believe you. And he did it. So, and now here's a video.
I just want to make a video saying that there's been somebody that's been taking my pictures, putting them on dating sites, and scamming women. I don't know if he's scamming men too, and taking their money. Not really taking money, but getting them to send them money through, the mail or however else he does it. But I just want to let you know that is not me. I am not Ricardo Beal. I am in the military. Just want to let you all know that you should probably keep your uh, Instagram, your Facebook, your Twitter on lockdown because they can take your stuff, like your pictures, because it's what happened to me.
He's not fake.
Goddamn liar.